What's happening, guys? Today we are talking about LS swaps. I've just completed my first swap of one of these, and I'm going to tell you if I recommend them or not, what's sort of involved in them, and if I think you should be doing one. So stick around. Thanks. So I'm just going to end the suspense right now on what I think, if I think you should LS swap one in general. No, I do not think it is worth it. This flavor here is a 4.8, so right off the bat, we're already not doing great. For my money, I'm not really a go fast guy or anything like that. I'm all about cruising, just getting something running, making it work decent, and not spending $1 million. And in my opinion, the small block Chevy is still unbeatable. It is cheap, easy to work with, and can run on one wire. The small block Fords can go in that category as well. They can also be HEI converted or use the old style. The 350 has so much aftermarket support. I know these do, but at the end of the day, it's expensive. Everybody's always talking about how cheap these swaps are, how easy they are to do. And perhaps if you've done 4 or 5 and you've got some time under your belt, or if you're a master electrician with the stock stuff, sure. Or if you want to cobble something together, definitely. However, if you are a fellow that wants things done right, done well, your truck isn't going to burn down, or your car, it's going to cost a lot of money. And I'm going to go over some of the things that cost were involved with this that I didn't necessarily think about at the beginning and what it ended up being. So let's get into a little bit of that. So there's a lot of people on the internet saying that the regular manifolds fit in one of these 76 Chevys. And they fit in the most vague of, definitions. That I wouldn't call that fitting. I had to trim a lot of the ear, that corner of that manifold off, and it's still going to hit any type of bumping or anything like that. So, gonna need headers. I mean, that's a big expense right there. Another thing, on the last video, you saw that this motor didn't fit, and we thought it was because of a bent frame, and it's really not. It was because the oil pan did not clear. And you might think that it doesn't make that much difference, or it'll clear. It does not. So that's a $230 purchase right there as well. Not cheap. Along with that, we've got the wiring harness. Now, I've seen people trim down stock ones, but honestly, I don't have the know-how for that. And I think a lot of regular folks wouldn't either. So I ended up buying an aftermarket wiring harness from PSI. This was $700. Outrageous, in my opinion, but that's what they cost. And then after that, you can either get your computer reflashed, or you can buy another one, which all ready to rock and roll. That was another, $400 or $500. Outrageous. And then we're moving on from there to the fuel tank. Needed a different fuel tank because they didn't make a sending unit that fit this one for the EFI stuff. So this has an EFI, big heavy duty fuel pump in it and whatnot. But got a new tank, got a new pump, all that and more. Very expensive, $150 for the tank, another 75 or 100 for the actual pump, and the sending unit. And it's not even quite running yet. We still have to deal with the power steering, which is going to be a pain. I'm sure they make a conversion kit and whatnot, but it's going to be another $100, as it always is. And I guess at the end of the day, it all depends on what you're capable of and what you know how to do and what you like to do. I mean, maybe this would be worth it if it was a 6.0 with a 4L80 and made a ton of power. But this is really going to be, it's going to be okay. It's going to be like driving a regular Silverado, honestly, though. It's not going to be anything crazy or special, and it's still got a sloppy 4L60 behind it, nothing fancy. For my money, I would have bought a Chevy 350 and a 700 R4 and been done with this project a month and a half ago. It would have been that much easier. One wire for the HEI, another wire for the linkage for the transmission, and you're done. That's it. And really, we haven't even gotten to some additional expenses. So with like old school setup, you would have been able to use your stock gauges and everything. Everything would have hooked up and worked. Your RPM, your speedo. You know, I know we'll be able to get the oil gauge and the water gauge and the electric gauge to work in this, but that's it. Otherwise, we're going to need digital everything else. That's $600. That's crazy. And, you know, and I keep thinking, you know, for like $700, you can get a whole complete running gear out of an old car or truck and been done with it. This, you know, I bought a whole truck for this swap. I bought, you know, the 2004 pickup, and they say it's easy and whatnot. But as you start looking at it, it's not. There's everything and anything that can go wrong will go wrong. And I'm not about to trim down a wiring harness by myself and burn this thing up. I'm not about to, you know, reprogram a computer. There's just an endless list of crap that you have to do to make these work. And for my money, old school is the way to go, especially if you just want something to drive. If you're making some hopped up super project with a bunch of turbos and whatnot, go nuts. Maybe this is the right way to go. But for me, for cruising, for just driving an old truck, horrible. Way too much money. Fuel injection can be had easier with like a Phytech system or something if you're settling for old carbureted stuff. And the power that this 4.8 is going to make is, I think it makes the same horsepower but less torque than a 350 does. So, I mean, it's a fine thing to start with. You'll have fuel injection and it'll work and it'll start in the cold. But I've had carbureted motors that start in the cold like that. It's all about what you know. And, you know, everybody says, this is the future. This is the future. Maybe electric's the future. I don't know. But for me, I'm going to stick with the old school because that's what I like. That's what I know. And if I was going to spend this much money again, I would go out and get a Cummins motor and put it in here instead, because for the money, you could have had one of those, and boy howdy, this would have been rowdy with a Cummins instead of a 4.8 LS motor. So those are my thoughts. I'm sure if anybody watches this, there's going to be a lot of people being like, you just don't know what you're talking about. You don't know how to do electronics. All that's probably true, but I'm telling you what I found, what I know, what I think. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.